If you heard that there was an international trade agreement between 9 countries being drafted behind closed doors, would you want to know the details? Well, that's exactly what's been happening. It's called the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and it's a trade agreement between Chile, Australia, Brunei, New Zealand, Peru, Singapore, Malaysia, Vietnam, and the United States. And what better way to explain it than in a song? Take a look. Now, TPP spokespeople have said that it will tear down previous barriers and raise international standards. But critics say differently. They say that it will compromise food safety, create monopolistic drug patents, which will lead to more expensive medicine, allow millions of American jobs to be offshored, cause financial deregulation, and impede net neutrality. More disturbingly, there are over 600 corporate advisors on the TPP. The negotiations between corporations and nation-states are happening in secret, while public and consumer advocates are left out in the dark. But activists aren't letting the agreement go down without a fight. Take a look at this. This is TPP teepee that they had installed in the hotel bathrooms where the negotiations are being held. A little light reading for the bathroom. It's their way of saying that the agreement isn't even worth the paper it's printed on. But let's look at the bigger picture here. Will this new agreement really break down needed barriers, or are the public's interests being the ones who are traded away? And what's with all this secrecy? Joining me now for more is Melinda St. Louis. She's the International Campaigns Director of Public Citizen. Hey, Melinda. So, you have trade representatives saying it's necessary to be deliberating these in secret to make sure that they're, everything's hammered out properly. Do you disagree with that?
We do disagree, because this is an agreement that this deal, if concluded, would have ramifications for the public at large in the United States and in all of the countries that are a part of it. And very little of it actually has to do with tariffs and trade. There are two of the chapters that have to do with trade, and the rest have to do with other aspects of our life, like public health, environmental safety, and so forth. And so we believe it's very important for us to be part of seeing what is actually being negotiated, to be able to provide analysis and to make it actually be a good agreement.
Would you say that this trade agreement is more secretive than others in the past? Would you say that this is a growing trend to kind of hash out these things more secretively? Well,
there certainly are examples of agreements that are less secretive than this one. In fact, the Free Trade Area of the Americas, which was an agreement that was being negotiated in the early 2000s, had a draft text release. The World Trade Organization regularly publishes draft text. So it doesn't need to be this secretive, and there is a lot of precedent for them to make it much less secretive than it is.
So to be clear, you guys got a hold of a draft from last year. You guys haven't seen the new negotiations that they've been.
We actually only there was a leaked chapter only on intellectual property. That's the only chapter that has leaked in the whole process. There are 26 chapters being negotiated. So it's actually much more secretive. In the past, there have been other types of leaks. This has been locked down. And in fact, the negotiating partners signed a memorandum of understanding saying they wouldn't release any draft text until 4 years after the negotiations were completed or after the deal came into effect, which is absolutely appalling to us.
So let's talk about the problems with what's being negotiated. Let's talk about the drug and food safety aspects of the bill. Can you elaborate on why people should be concerned about that?
Well, as I mentioned, there was a leaked chapter, and it was about intellectual property. And what intellectual property in the TPP means, the U.S. Tabled a proposal that would expand patents for drug monopolies. So this is really a wish list of big pharma, of the pharmaceutical companies, to be able to extend patents beyond what is currently agreed to in international fora like the World Trade Organization. So they want to extend patents beyond the 20 years they already have, which would mean that generic drug companies would not be able to enter the market, which is what depresses drug prices. So in a lot of ways, you see this as actually not free trade at all. In fact, it's actually making more and more monopolies so that drug companies can keep drug prices high.
Let's talk about the 600 corporate advisors that are involved in these negotiations. I mean, that is very concerning to know that there are these corporate entities working with the nation states to draft certain policies. I mean, is it just to increase their bottom line? Do we have any idea who these corporate people are, and are they members of the pharmaceutical industry and food industry?
Yeah, we do. We know who they are. They're actually published on the U.S. Trade Representative's website. The U.S. Trade Representative has cleared advisors that are able to view text. They're able to provide input, and the vast majority of them are corporations. There are a few public labor and environmental organizations that are part of it, but it's 600 versus 30. So you can imagine what we're actually looking at, and the rest of the public is completely kept in the dark.
And the leaked chapter that you talked about dealing with intellectual privacy laws and the encroachment of, impeding the net and all of these things that intellectual privacy activists are being concerned about. Let's talk about that. I mean, what would that look like? I mean, SOPA and PIPA didn't pass, but it seems like this would almost open up a whole new international reaching of government.
Exactly. SOPA and PIPA were defeated in the U.S. Congress because activists around the country saw what was actually being negotiated and in the bills and said, we will not accept this. And so what you see now, and that's what we're concerned about overall with the TPP and these trade deals, is it's a backdoor way of these corporations to get things they actually can't get through our democratic process. So we know through leaked chapters, through the leaks, that what they're trying to push is would increase copyright protections for content owners, and would decrease the ability for people to have a free internet. It would police individual encroachers on copyright the same as if they were large-scale copyright criminals. And so, I mean, it really, and the types of copies that need to be created on files just so that you can use them for personal use, those would be banned through this. So they would be able to start charging more and more for all the types of content that you can that you have access to on the internet. And very concerningly, again, this is being negotiated behind closed doors.
Right. It seems to me like Democrats and Republicans across the board, they keep urging, Buy American. This has been this nationalistic kind of talking point for so long, and you see it in the Buy American Act in 1933. What happened? I mean, this talk about how this is going to actually overstep that as well.
Right. There's a chapter on, it's called government procurement. And what that means is it actually tells us what we can do with our taxpayer dollars when our government is buying goods and services for our schools, for those types of things. And basically what it would mean is it would mean that we have to treat all of the TPP countries the same as America in Buy American. So when we say Buy American, that would also be Buy Vietnam. It would also be Buy Malaysia. And so that's what we know is in these agreements. They've been in past agreements, and now we're actually trying to expand that to all of these TPP countries. So and it goes directly in contradiction with what President Obama is talking about when he talks about wanting to really reinvest in American manufacturing.
So Obama's overseeing this all happen.
Well, these are trade negotiators that many of them are carryovers from past administrations, and they're just continuing the same line and with the corporate advisors that have been there always. So
certainly with the overstepping of the Buy American Act, we will see shipping of hundreds, if not thousands, of jobs overseas, and it's definitely something to be aware of and keep posted on. Thank you so much for coming on. That was Melinda St. Louis, International Campaigns Director for Public Citizen.